Let me guess, you've heard all the hype about AI, but when you actually sit down to use ChatGPT, your brain short circuits and you're back to staring at a blank screen. Sound familiar? Here's the deal. The way we sell digital products has changed. And if your funnel was built before 2024, there's a good chance it's already outdated. That's why I have rebuilt the Empowered Business Lab from the ground up with AI at the core. Inside of EBL AI, I'll show you how to use AI to create better digital products, write sales pages that actually convert, and finally make sense of your funnel data without the headache. You don't need to be techie. You don't need to start from scratch. You just need the right system, and this is it. Right now, you can grab it for $500 off through Sunday, March 30th. Outdated funnels aren't just old, they're expensive. Let's stop the scroll and start making sales. Are you in? Head on over to empoweredbusinesslab.com and join us. Welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast, where strategy meets action. I'm Monica Froese, and I'm here to help you create, sell, and scale digital products the smart way, using AI and proven strategies to build a sustainable, profitable business. If you're ready to turn your expertise into digital products that sell and eventually grow into a thriving digital shop, you're in the right place. Each week, I break down real-world tactics, unfiltered insights, and bold business moves. Because building a digital product business should be sustainable, scalable, and designed for long-term success. Let's ditch the fluff, leverage AI to work smarter, and turn your expertise into a thriving digital empire on your terms. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Business Podcast. This is episode 80. And for episode 80, we have a very special guest who I talk about all the time. We were just laughing before we started recording because she makes an appearance in almost every episode because I talk about her all the time, but she actually hasn't been on the podcast since, we just checked, episode 28. So it's been almost like 50 some episodes between, and many years because we went on several hiatuses. So who am I talking about? None other than my unicorn. I haven't called you my unicorn in a while. I don't even know, there's really no word. I don't even have a word for what she does in the business because it is very unicorny. She pretty much can do everything I do and then some. I can't create graphics. And so who are we talking about? Drum roll, please. Miss Hayley, hello.
Hi, I am so excited to be here. We're going to have a great conversation today.
I know. Now everyone gets to peel back and listen to how we were always on Zoom talking. So it's just like an extension that they get to listen to. But since you were on the podcast last, you've done lots of interesting things because the last episode we recorded was about you being the operations manager. And now literally you're a unicorn, but also what else are you doing?
Yeah, so many things. So I have started my own business. Really, I do a lot of services now, but my business is called Copy Click Studio, and I have you as a client. I do, a lot of your marketing, graphics, emails, all sorts of stuff, still very much in it and kind of doing a lot of the same things as I was when I was an operations manager. But I also have some other fun things that I do on the side. One of those is my Draft membership, which is an email marketing membership. I don't know if it'll be open when this airs. I'm opening it today. But yeah, that's an email marketing membership where I help small businesses like solopreneurs come up with topics for their email marketing to help them email consistently. I've been throwing a lot of AI in there, which has been really fun to explore, which is what we're going to talk more about today. And then, yeah, otherwise you take up the rest of my time. Keep me plenty busy. Oh, I've also had another child since
That's right.
talked. Yeah.
You did.
And I moved across the country. So just a few little things that have, happened.
She's been a busy bee. So Hayley has 3 kids, 7 and under.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a husband. Yeah, she has a husband. I do not anymore, but she still has one. We like her husband. We call him, can I say what?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can tell them.
We call him Zanny Andy because he's like Xanax in a bottle. He is the calmest, most even keel person. And I always say we should just bottle him up and then we wouldn't need anxiety medicine.
No, because he's so chill. And, if I'm spiraling, then he brings me down. Or if Monica's spiraling, then I help bring her down and then he brings me down. So really, he's the root of the, even keelness of the business even.
Yeah. It is a well-earned nickname.
Yeah.
Okay, so today what we're talking about is I feel like the question that we have been getting the most lately that we're like, we should probably create some resources around this. And that question is how we're using, not only just how we're using AI in the business, because honestly, we call it like our second employee for $20 a month. And it's, I think, very true. It's how we're using AI, but going a step further than that, we keep getting asked basically how we're training AI on our business voice. And I feel like me and you have different approaches to a degree of how we each trained our AI, but it has led to the same sort of point. And I think that's what people really want to hear about. So I think to start, we should say, and I've mentioned this in a couple episodes ago, I did not embrace it till 2025 because I did not have the brain space in my personal life to embrace anything new. And so you embraced it before me. And you want to talk about when you started?
Yeah, so we were just talking about this before the call because I was trying to think back about my first interactions with opening ChatGPT and putting something in there and what did that look like. And I think it was in July 2024 or so when we were starting to do some brainstorming for the Striking Gold Summit, which was our summit for digital shop creators, owners, people who wanted to open a digital product shop. And I remember we were working on coming up with a theme for it. And I was like, well, why don't I just ask ChatGPT if it has some other ideas? And it helped us land on a title, on a tagline. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, I've already told it all of this stuff about the summit. Maybe it can help me come up with some sales page copy, some email copy. So at that point, then I started kind of feeding it my past emails that I'd written and like emails for past launches and saying, okay, here's my writing style. I really just wanted to overload it with my voice so that it could basically imitate me because, we all know that AI is only as good as how well you train it.
Right.
So I didn't want to just say like, write me an email because I'm also very picky and have very high standards on the content that we put out. So I wanted to make sure that what it's writing for us was going to be usable and it was going to save me time versus making me take longer to do things.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me that you told me you were doing before I embraced it, Hayley writes all of our emails. I think I've written one in the last 6 months, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't write the emails, which is funny. I always say, because my mom will be like, hey, I read your email. And I'm like, Mom, it came from me, but I did not write that. That would be Hayley. So you would ask AI to help you like craft the storyline or the hook. And then you would take it to the finish line and make sure that it was in our voice and it was punchy enough. And then you would feed it back to ChatGPT and say, hey, this is the version you came out with, but this is the final version that we use. So you would get momentum over the months where you kept training it on making it better, essentially, the voice.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would finish writing something and then I would say, okay, here's the final one that I did. Please look for the differences in this and make notes about it for the tone of voice that I want you to have. And so I was like, okay, got it. Memory updated. So it would know for the future, like, okay, this is how she likes things structured. Here are the types of words that we use or what we don't use. I really hate jargon. So it tries to cut that out, et cetera, et cetera. So really doing that consistently over several months. I mean, I still do it. I don't do it quite as often now because it's pretty dialed in. But when I was starting to use it, really having a heavy back and forth with it throughout the editing process has helped me get it to where it is now.
And one of the things that I've done that's a little bit different, because I always think my mode as in the business of putting out content has been much more voice. I don't really love sitting there and writing. That's why the fact that I started as a blogger is kind of funny. In school, I used to say, like, when they assigned essays, can I just take a test instead?
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I could not stand essays. And so my mode of putting out content is very verbal. So what I did was I started downloading transcripts from all these episodes of the Empowered Business Podcast and our private podcast, the Monica Memo, which is in the Society. But also, I do a lot of coffee chats and I'm really good off the cuff. I think some of my best things that come out of my brain and out of my mouth happen when someone asks me a really good question and I'm like, ooh. And I started uploading those into ChatGPT. And there's things when you have ChatGPT, is it called ChatGPT Plus? Is that the...
Yeah.
I think it's the $20 a month tier that we both pay for it. And you can create folders. And in those folders, so like I have a folder called Empowered Business. I have a folder called Redefining Mom. I have a folder called Personal. And under Empowered Business, for example, you can load in that folder a bunch of essential content that you want it to know about that topic. So I've slowly been getting all the podcast transcripts up. The other thing I do is AI has helped me write a lot of these recent podcast outlines. And after the episode is done, I take the transcript, put it in and say, hey, this was the final episode. So you helped me with the outline, but this is what I ended up coming out of my mouth. And so as I'm creating more podcast episodes, I have noticed that it has gotten way better on the outline.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I never even thought about that. But, it's incredible the things that we can do with taking audio and putting it into written form as well. Like Cast Magic has been one of the best tools we've used for that. Even last November, December, I was creating a product, and one of my workflows when creating a spreadsheet is to record an instructional video. And so I created the spreadsheet, and then I recorded like a 5 or 6 minute instruction video where I just clicked through the tabs, I explained it. Well, then I took that instruction video, put it into Cast Magic, and because it was my verbal recording of going through this whole spreadsheet, it was able to write emails, sales copy, the product description, all of this stuff from just the instruction video that I recorded. And since it knew my tone of voice, that was like one of the first times I used audio to kind of help train ChatGPT to come up with more content. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier than having to do all of this other stuff from scratch.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's talk about the difference between ChatGPT and Cast Magic for people who don't know the difference. So these are the main AI tools that we use in this business. I've kind of looked at it like ChatGPT helps me. It's like I have a conversation with it. It is as if I'm on Zoom with Hayley, except I'm having a conversation with a robot, essentially, who I am making smarter every day by having these conversations. And I use it to create a lot of our content that is going out, content that's like from scratch, like podcast episodes. You use it for emails. I use it for brainstorming. Brainstorming's huge. Like I just did it for St. Patrick's Day. I said, hey, I want to do a 48-hour flash sale in the Empowered Shop. Can you give us some cool marketing campaign ideas to do that? Cast Magic, on the other hand, is you basically take content like audio, video, you upload it in there, and then it gives you a transcript, but then you create content, and basically you can theme. I can set up these workspaces and I'll say, okay, everything in this workspace is going to be a podcast episode. And it has these predetermined prompts for podcasts of all the things you might need content-wise. So you upload the transcript and then it's going to give you titles and descriptions and podcast show notes and emails. And you can also add in custom prompts. So that helps us take the content, like ChatGPT helped us create the content and come up with the ideas. And then Cast Magic helps us push it out in an organized fashion. That's how I see it. Do you see it differently?
I view it the same. I will say that since I've trained ChatGPT so well on my voice, if I need copy that's more polished, more in our brand voice, etc., I will take the transcript from Cast Magic and give it to my ChatGPT and have it write more branded copy. But Cast Magic is really helpful for me when I need like a timestamp list of what's in the video, or I want to pull out snippets or something like that. It's really good at just dissecting the content of it. Whereas ChatGPT, without extra add-ons, it can't listen to audio. Like it can't generate a transcript unless you use one of the extra add-ons that you have to eventually pay for. So that's why I use Cast Magic for getting that audio transcript.
Yeah, so two things that Cast Magic has done pretty well for us. One, we are now updating the entire Empower Business Lab, and there's a lot of new videos in there. So when I put the video into Cast Magic, it timestamps. It's not just the transcript I'm looking for. I'm also looking for timestamps of key points that we're talking about so people know in the video, basically the video description that we put in the course site. The other thing we found out with editing the podcast that's been super helpful is it will pick out catchy quotes from the transcript and tell you, it will actually snip the audio for you and show you exactly where in the audio it is. And you can download just that snippet of the audio. And that's great for like audiograms. If you ever see those go out on our Instagram, those two things it's helped with. Funny you mentioned though, how ChatGPT, since we've trained it so well in our brand voice, just yesterday,
Natalie came to me and said, here are the titles for the next podcast episode that Cast Magic came up with. And I was reading it on my phone and I was like, I don't like any of these titles. And so I said, hey, Natalie, can you give me the transcript from Cast Magic? And I went and I had mapped out that episode in ChatGPT already. So I gave the transcript to ChatGPT and I said, here's the final episode. Remember this. Also, can I have 10 catchy titles? So much better. The titles were so much better out of ChatGPT. So it is amazing over time, the more you give to it and train it, and also tell it what you dislike. You do that a lot, right?
I do. I'll call it out and be like, I don't like this line. It needs something else. Like I just did that this morning. I was writing an email and I was like, I don't like this line. I want it more centered around a different topic, or I want to make sure to talk about this, and I'll have it rewrite it. But it's interesting that you bring that up because it really goes to show that AI is only as good as the person behind it. And for the people who have been worried that AI is taking over, it's only making us more productive. Like I told my parents, because I was visiting them, I was writing an email and I was like, look, I wrote this email and I used AI to help me come up with the finished product. But it still took me an hour and a half to draft the email. It wasn't like I just said, okay, this is what I want an email about. Write it for me. Okay, done 5 minutes. It still took me a while because like I said earlier, I have high standards and I want it to still sound good. I want it to sound like me. But I will say that the finished product that I end up with for email, sales copy, it's so much more polished now that I'm working with AI than before.
Yes. Okay, this brings up a really good point that happened to me recently. And I was talking to you about this, which is we are redoing a lot of our quick win workshops to have an AI spin. And the first one we're doing is around online business goal planning. It's kind of dual purpose. One, I have not been in a goal planning mindset in a long time because of everything that happened in my personal life. And I really want to get back to it. And so I thought this was like a fresh way to do it. Well, it ended up being a very interesting project for me because what I did was I took the transcript from the original webinar and I took all the slides and I downloaded them into a PDF and I loaded them into ChatGPT as a baseline. So now it's like, here's everything that I taught the first go around. Here are the slides that go with it. And what I discovered from it is it's kind of two dual things that came to mind. One, I was like, I had to create all of this content by myself. For it to understand me so well around this topic, that first iteration was all out of my brain. There was no assistance whatsoever. And we've just created so much content without AI that we have a really good baseline. So I actually encourage people, if you're like new to creating content, really challenge yourself to create content outside of AI first. That's going to help educate it even better. So what ended up happening was, it was interesting because I said, here's what I did. Now we want to infuse AI into the goal planning process to make it more streamlined and easier and speed it up and get additional insights that we might not think of on our own. And the way it took it made no sense, to be honest with you. Like the original outline it gave me, I was like, this is not helpful at all. Critical thought, right? Here, I gave it all this baseline content and I still was like, I don't think this is going to resonate with people. So I went back to it and said, hey, I actually want to follow the flow of the original presentation, which came out of my brain, but I want to infuse in the different areas AI. I don't want to switch up the whole thing. And I had to really work quite hard on prompting it with what I wanted to get the finished polished result. And I think that's a really good testament to like, you just can't plug stuff in and expect magic to happen. It's not magic. You still have to use your own expertise in the topic to make it usable.
Absolutely. Really, very rarely. I mean, I actually can't even think of a time when I went to it and wanted it to create something from scratch. Even last week, I was working on an outline for the new branding quick win workshop that I'm doing in April. And I wanted to first work on kind of a general outline, but I still spent probably like 10 minutes just giving it my rough draft ideas of like, I know I want to talk about this, this, and this. This is a big point that I want to make sure that we stress in the promotional materials. And I feel like you have to, as a person, write the rough draft for AI then to go off of. You can't expect AI to do the rough draft of what you're doing because that's a recipe for a disaster. But the thing that I love is that I can give it the roughest of rough drafts and it will turn it into something pretty. And I joke that, you know, AI doesn't have 3 kids that it also has to manage, whereas I do. And so my brain sometimes feels like it has just gone through a salad spinner, but like AI is coming in fresh to every conversation. So I can bring it my salad spinner messy brain and it like puts it together and helps me verbalize my thoughts. And I'm like, okay, this is the direction direction I want to go.
Yeah, it's really good for structure. Honestly, most of my time prior to AI was spent trying to get everything extracted from my brain and putting it in a logical format. And it can really help you with structuring things quite a bit. We get asked 2 questions a lot. One question I got asked recently in a coffee chat for our membership, which was basically, Hayley was training her ChatGPT on your business essentially before you. How did I end up mirroring it with my ChatGPT? Because we don't share an account. We have our own, and we actually named ours. Hers is named, you want to tell them?
Pip.
We love Pip. And I named mine Mafio after the Bills Mafia. I have trained it, and it knows not to make fun of Josh Allen. And it's actually really funny and infuses Buffalo Bills humor quite a bit. And so we named mine Mafio. Totally separate accounts, though. So I started early January really diving in. And I was getting pretty generic copy out of it. And I knew that. I'm like, Hayley's going to axe this. She's not going to like this. So you ended up getting me a branding guide. You want to talk about how you got that?
Yes. Okay. So at this point, by January, I had been using ChatGPT pretty regularly for, I would say, like maybe maybe 4 months, pretty regularly, helping me with a lot of email copy, sales page copy, etc. And Monica would bring ideas to me, and I would then run them through my ChatGPT to get them to better match our brand voice, come up with new ideas, etc. So one day I was like, you know what? I bet that I could have my ChatGPT, Pip, write a tone of voice branding guide that I could then give to Monica and have her put it in hers so that it'll help match up. I don't remember the exact prompt I used, but I basically told it, I was like, hey, I want Monica to be able to write in the same tone of voice that you help me write with. Can you please write a branding guide that she can give to her ChatGPT to help match up the voice? And it was like the most beautiful output of the pure essence boiled down of our brand voice. And it was like, we say this, we don't say this, and just calling out all of these things that I didn't even realize we were regularly doing in our copy. And it was just magic. It also made me so proud of the brand that we've cultivated because, you know, we do have a unique style, and we've worked on that for a lot of years. And the fact that we're able to train ChatGPT to help us with that has just been, you know,
and it was like the first iteration, wasn't it? Like did you do any cleanup to it, or
no,
pretty spot on?
It came back spot on. And so then I gave that to you. But, you know, I think a really good thing that I appreciate about ChatGPT is its ability to reflect on itself, I guess. So I can say, okay, we have this process, but can you please explain this process so that somebody else can do it? And so instead of me having to think through all of the steps and write out this outline, it just does it. So like when I say I need a branding guide, it knows what a branding guide, tone of voice guide is. And I don't have to say like, please also include words that we use and words that we don't use. It just knows. And so the fact that I could ask it to do that, and then it just gave me this gorgeous Word document that I could give you and you put in yours. It also had instructions for what to tell your AI assistant to do, was just chef's kiss. It was just incredible.
So this leads into then what I did with it. Okay, so she gives me this 3-page guide, and I downloaded it into a PDF, and I put it in the folder. So it's specific to the empowered business. And so this is going to lead into the next part, which is how we differentiate brands and how we train it. So an empowered business brand guide. So I put it in the files under empowered business, and I told ChatGPT what it was, and it pulls from it as now that's like a core piece of content that it pulls from when I ask it to create copy. Then what happened was we got into relaunching Redefining Mom, but when you were training AI, we were not talking about Redefining Mom. It was just empowered business. And you had experience in the fact that you also had Copy Click and you were using it for both. So you were already figuring out different ways to differentiate, but you didn't really have anything on Redefining Mom. And I took a little bit of a different approach, which I honestly really recommend for anyone who's been in business for any amount of time, because it was super helpful at ChatGPT understanding me. So what I did was one Saturday, and my daughter thought I was a little nutty because, you know, the Bruce Almighty meme where he's like typing a million miles. She said that's what I was doing, because basically I sat down and I said, hey, I am going to tell you the story of my business. And everything that came out, and I talked about the empowered business, Pim Practical, the empowered shop. I talked about redefining mom, the origins, the history, how it all came together. Oh, I also fed it things like testimonials from our sales pages. So it could understand, and it comes up with really creative ways to use testimonials that I still want to use in the business. But basically anything I could think to tell it, I told it. And it was just like a huge, massive brain dump. And then at the end, I said, hey, based on everything I told you, can you create a timeline of my online business journey? And it was remarkable. I was blown away by how accurate it was. I only had to tweak little things, like maybe was off by a year on something that we did, but pretty much had it. And then I said, can you write me my brand story? If I was going to go on stage and talk about my journey in online business, could you write a brand story, and how to do that? I said, we have two sides of the business now. We have empowered business and redefining mom. Can you, in 2 to 3 sentences, define each brand? And it did that. Now I keep empowered business and redefining mom in its own folder. So then I went to the redefining mom folder and I said, this exact prompt you used, I asked what it was about the branding style and writing guide, and I put it in, and it came out with one. I think I gave the branding style, and then I also asked it for the history of redefining mom, and I gave it to you and Natalie, and you guys could upload that as a baseline to start with the redefining mom voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often yours confuses brand voices. I have had some things come back on the empowered business side that infuses some mom stuff. And I'll say, hey, no, redefining mom's a separate brand. Remember? And I always say, remember that redefining mom's a separate brand, and we don't talk to just moms on empowered business or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's been an experience keeping them separate. But really, AI has done a really good job at keeping them separate for the most part. Yeah, because I have it help me with some copy click stuff because, I have an email list over there. I send weekly emails. I talk more about personal stuff over there, whereas Empowered Business is like more about you. And I don't often write emails from my point of view for Empowered Business. So sometimes it'll write something and I'm like, no, write this as Monica's point of view, not mine. So I have to have it like change a little bit there. But I also sat down with it one day and I was like, okay, I need to give you an overview of the brands, who owns what, whose voice we're talking from, so that you can keep these separate. I was like, I think we need to have like a little come to Jesus moment here because we got to set some things straight. But since I've done that, I don't really ever have issues with it. I will say that I think my ChatGPT really tends to separate things by product because I'm so often working on something related to a specific product that I'm like, okay, this is for the AI goal planning. Okay, this is for the quick win workshop on branding. This is for Empowered Business Lab AI, digital shop experience. And so I feel like rather than by brand so much, my ChatGPT works a little bit more by product.
That's interesting.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and also really good for people to see that we are both working on content for the same brand. And just by nature of how we work and think, it's like a little different. Mine's definitely on the brand level. That's how I see it and how I've traded it. And yet you've gotten yours on the, and now that you say that, that's actually very interesting because there's times that I noticed that mine will confuse products and I have to say, no, that's not for, because I'm working on, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like I'm working on multiple products a lot. And I'm switching back and forth between podcasts and like more general themes. And then I'll one day be inside of the Empowered Business Lab, but then I'm jumping over to goal planning and some of content. So I think I confuse it sometimes in that level. So I do have to clarify it. Okay, I know people ask this a lot too, getting used to using AI and it can feel overwhelming and how to just get started. I have some ideas about that, but do you want to talk about how you use it outside of business as well? Because you use it a lot too outside of business.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Actually, this is really interesting. So 2 things. First, I want to talk about what I did with my daughter a few weeks ago because she was getting her tonsils out. And I love like little holidays and the tooth fairy, like all of those little parent things to make kids' lives fun. I love all of it. So she's getting her tonsils out. She's 4. And I really wanted to do something special for her after surgery. So I went to Pip, my ChatGPT, and I said, hey, Pip, my daughter's getting her tonsils out. I want to make sure that she feels special. What can we do to help make her comfortable, etc.? And it came up with the most genius idea called the tonsil fairy, which is basically like the tooth fairy. But the tonsil fairy comes and brings like a basket of gifts. And also it wrote me a whole poem from the tonsil fairy about how it takes your tonsils and turns them into stars in the sky. It was so good. Anyway, it was wonderful. It was such a hit. It went off really well. So I love using ChatGPT for coming up with creative ideas, like off the wall ideas like that, because I love doing them. But again, I have 3 kids and I am not always the most witty off the wall person because I'm stressed out. So that was a huge hit. Now, another thing I did yesterday was I am running a half marathon in a couple weeks, and I've had a really hard time getting my nutrition dialed in. And so I went to my ChatGPT and I said, hey, these are my nutrition goals. I'm having a really hard time meeting them. Can you help me come up with a meal plan that will follow me as I have really heavy running days or on days when I don't run? And can you help me start to map this out so I can make some improvements? And it came up with just the best outline for me that has totally inspired me to dial in my nutrition leading up to my race. So it's been really helpful. And now I've started a new spreadsheet that I'm creating so that I can track all of this stuff and really get a better handle on my nutrition. And that was like a very different off the wall thing that I asked my ChatGPT for. But it's funny because I feel like I'm like, write an email about AI enhanced goal planning. And then I'm like, my daughter is getting her tonsils out. Like, thank you for keeping up with me, Pip.
I've asked it how to reject a guy.
Yes!
Which was one of my favorite ways to use it. I actually run into these kind of videos a lot on TikTok. I run into videos like, my new BFF in dating is ChatGPT because, you know, like the stereotype that, oh, the group text with all your girlfriends and you send screenshots. You're like, well, how do I respond to this? Basically, you can just ask ChatGPT. Does not disappoint, by the way. It was the best rejection I've ever given and they weren't mad. It was just very well written. But yeah, it definitely tracks. And one of the things I tell people about if you're like, I don't even know where to start to use this. If you're going to go to Google for something, go to ChatGPT instead. And this probably has bigger implications for all of us as content creators when it comes to search engines, because I know a lot of our content can be found on the internet. And I think that's a whole bigger conversation. But that's what I started doing. Like when I knew that if I don't get on the AI train, I'm going to get left behind. The first behavior I changed was, oh, if I'm going to go Google that, let me start a chat in ChatGPT. And I remember one of the first ones I did, and I was like, oh, wow, this cut out a lot of time, was I had returns I had to make from Old Navy factory outlet. And so first I wanted to know, can I make this to a regular Old Navy store? Because I would have to drive further to go back to the factory outlet. And then I knew there was a 30-day return policy and I was a few days over that. So I was like, and do they honor returns over 30 days? And what it did was it aggregated an answer because it took stuff from the official Old Navy website, but it also searched different Reddit threads. And so basically it aggregated an answer for me that I would have had to click through to multiple different web pages and figure it out all on my own. And that's when it kind of really clicked that, oh, this cuts out a lot. Even with Googling, it cuts out a lot of our extra work.
Totally. Well, it's funny you say that because yesterday I started by going to Google and searching for like meal plans for runners and none of them were hitting the mark for what I needed. So I was like, well, I guess ChatGPT could probably come up with a custom one. And so I spent 5 or 10 minutes writing out like, here's where I'm struggling, but I also really love sweets. And so I need to have sugar in my meal plan. And what can you come up with me? And, you know, I might not use all of what ChatGPT gave me, but the fact that it got me excited about taking action about it is something that I've been searching for months and have not been able to harness.
Well, this is interesting because when I started dabbling into it for meal planning, mine came from my custody schedule because what I was finding is ordering food when you have a grown man here 7 days a week is much different than ordering food for 3 ladies. And 2 of them are only here half the time. So I found myself feeling like I was wasting a lot of food because I have a 5-5-2-2 custody schedule, especially on those 2 weeks. They're only here for 2 days. So if I order a bunch of fruits and stuff, they're going to be bad by the time they get back to me. Even bread, dairy, my girls love their chocolate milk, and one daughter always wants milk for cereal, and I don't eat cereal. So if they're not consuming it, it went to waste. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I originally went to ChatGPT with wanting to reduce food waste. And I explained my custody schedule. But then I realized I have unique dietary needs because I had gastric sleeve surgery. And so I explained to it, I have to lead with protein, then I go to veggies, and then a starch. So I wanted it to make me a meal plan based on me having the surgery, the types of stuff. I gave it ideas for things that I regularly eat, and I wanted it to reduce waste. So I wanted it to tell me when to order things so that I'd have just enough for when the girls were here and what I would order. And I set a challenge for it. I said, I want to keep, when I have a 5-day stretch without the girls, I want to eat on $60 or less in those 5 days and not waste food. How would Google have done that for me?
No.
It couldn't have. And it just was really awesome. And then I started saying, oh, by the way, I have an air fryer. Then I started telling it all the things I have around my kitchen. And the other day, I just did a huge pantry cleanup, which I will fully admit, I was a little shocked that there was still stuff in there from when my ex lived here. I was like, oh, okay, so we have not cleaned the pantry. And I'm a very organized, clean person. Everyone in my life will tell you that. And I was like, wow, okay, this pantry clearly needed it. And then I gave the whole inventory of what was left. So much better now, so much cleaner. I was like, why do I have 2 Worcestershire? However you say that, sauces. Worcestershire. I'm like, what? I barely use this stuff. Why are there 2 in here? And I fed that inventory to ChatGPT. So now it could be even better with helping me reduce food waste because it knows everything I have in my pantry.
Yep. Incredible.
It really is. It's like we pay $20 a month to not only have an assistant in the business, but I have basically a personal assistant as well. It's absolutely incredible. And I guess I don't mind plugging this. So we already mentioned that we're relaunching Redefining Mom, and we had all these plans for relaunching, and we still do. Like there's brand new content pillars that we're building on the brand, and we launched redefiningmom.shop, all this fun stuff. But since we're so heavily into this AI stuff and it's exciting to us, we're doing what we're calling AI Mom Hack workshops around like budgeting, meal planning, kids activities, like free kids activities to keep your kids busy. And I can't remember what the 4th one is.
Budgeting, organization, like house.
Oh, time, productivity.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And honestly, I haven't been excited to create something in like 2 years, essentially. The last time I was excited to create anything was when we did the digital shop experience in early 2023. Because AI is it helps think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about it. But also just keep in mind, and when people are worried about it's going to replace us, one thing that comes to mind is I always say, because we're creating a divorce planner right now, and I'm like, it didn't get divorced. It doesn't have feelings. It can't possibly understand the emotional turmoil that it really was going through this. But what it can do is it can help me structure the content of the planner to make it easier for people to get through, but it will never feel it. It can't feel. And I think people got to keep that in mind when they think it will replace us.
Totally, because people are always going to connect with people. Like we are feeling people, and AI can only guess at feelings because it doesn't have feelings. And so I think as we move further and further into this world of AI, the stuff that's going to stand out and get traction is the stuff that still has that human voice in it, not the stuff that's purely brainstormed by AI and created by AI. Like the magic in our products still comes from us, and that's not going anywhere.
100%. And when I come across those TikTok videos of the people who are like, you can make $1 million by creating digital products using AI, and it's going to take you 5 days. Don't listen to garbage like that. People are still discerning. We still have brains. I used to say this all the time about data, garbage in, garbage out. I've seen that with AI. If you don't give it good information, it's garbage in, garbage out. And so our brains are still very, very integral to this process.
Absolutely. You want to talk about the cool little thing we made?
Yeah, I was just thinking this is a good time to help people with. Yes. Well, you made it, so you tell them about it.
Okay. Yes. So we made a super simple, awesome little guide called Teach Your AI to Think Like You. And it is how many steps? Like 6 or 7 steps that lead you through, like they're basically prompts to help you get AI on board with thinking like you, thinking like your brand. But it just gives a little bit of structure to it to make the process easier for you. So whether you have just one brand or multiple brands, this little guide will help you help your AI assistant navigate your different brands and talk in your tone of voice and just sound like you. So, makes your job a lot easier.
Yes, and we're going to be putting that in the Empowered Shop, so we'll make sure to link to it in the show notes. And also, do you want to tell them how they can find you on CopyClick?
Sure. Yeah. So I am on Instagram at copyclick.co, but really for the best experience, I would go to my website, which is just copyclick.co. I have a newsletter sign up on there and sign up for my emails because I email every Tuesday. I try and give a little AI hack to help you write emails better, usually using AI, but people love my emails. So
honestly, Hayley is a really good copywriter. And when you're listening to this, knowing that she is still using discernment. She's not just, AI wrote it for me and I'm just throwing it in and that's what you're getting. It's very much her still.
I'm still here. I'm still human.
I know,
I have
right?
not been replaced.
So moral of the story, don't listen to people out there that are saying, one, the AI is going to take over everything. It's not. I don't do the fear mongering like that. But also the people who are really going to succeed with AI are the people who are still putting critical thought into how they're using it and the outputs that they're getting and not just taking copy paste and that's it. That is never what we'd advocate. So I'll also mention that depending on when you're listening to this, how we create digital products with AI is going into our Empowered Business Lab. We're redoing it. It's now called Empowered Business Lab AI. So I won't give a direct link in this episode because it will change based on, right now it's a wait list. But you can always figure out where we are in the process by going to empoweredbusinesslab.com because whether it's open or you want to get on the wait list or you have a training coming up, you can go there. I think we are halfway through it with updating it. And I think it's honestly a game changer for people who are creating digital products and still want to make sure that they're not doing the junk in, junk out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, we have a lot of prompts and stuff in there, but, those prompts are coming from our experience. And first and foremost, we always want to make sure that your voice stands out in the content that you're creating and it's not a robot's voice. So everything that, as we're helping our students create digital products and Empowered Business Lab AI, it's always with the thought of putting themselves, their experiences, and all of that stuff first, and then just having AI help them do some of the heavy lifting to get it to the finished product.
100%. And so basically, there's a lot of fun stuff up and coming that we're coming out with the help of AI, including, you definitely with CopyClick are very helpful with people with their email marketing and AI. And I know that is one of the hardest things that people struggle big time in online business getting out regular emails. I don't even have to put out my emails because you do it for me. And I still find reading your emails very, very, I get ideas from them, especially when it comes to emails. So if you're listening and you struggle with getting out regular emails, go get on our list because she will help you get out regular emails, which is an incredibly important part of business. Okay, to end this, one, you're going to go follow Hayley on Instagram at copyclick.co, right? You're going to go to copyclick.co and sign up for her email list. And then you're going to head on over to the Empowered Shop and grab our guide called
Teach Your AI to Think Like You.
Yay! Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on today's episode.
Yeah.
That's a wrap on today's episode, but your next step starts right now. If you're serious about selling digital products and want the AI-powered tools, expert strategy, and real human support to make it happen, then you need to check out the Empowered Business Society. Inside, you'll get AI-driven trainings to create and sell digital products faster, a private community for expert feedback and real-time support, exclusive access to the Monica Memo podcast, and if you go pro, you'll get monthly marketing shortcuts, live Q&As, and 20% off of the Empowered Shop perpetually. Because smart business owners sell smarter, they don't work harder. And the best part, you can get started for as little as $9. The best business growth happens when AI and real humans work together. Ready to make your next move? Join us inside of the Empowered Business Society. You can check us out at empoweredbusiness.co/society. See you in the next episode.